welcome. But yeah, so episode 13. That's just crazy, man. 13 weeks strong.
Ooh, fast
Strong.
too, boy.
You know what I mean? That's 3 months. That's 3 months in a week. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That we've been keeping it thorough. You dig
Keeping
what
it
I'm saying?
thorough all the
But
way.
so this week we're gonna be talking about challenging common thoughts, right? So challenging common thoughts. And I think it's real good for us to kind of say like what that means to us, and then allow y'all to think about what that means to y'all. So Sid, what does it mean to you, right? When we say challenging common thoughts?
Man, just really just being able to ultimately look at some of the things that you've experienced, some of the things that you've gone through, and not be afraid to question them. You know what I'm saying? Just really being able to assess different things and weigh out other options, other alternatives, looking for different routes, looking for different ways, not being opposed to doing something different, not allowing certain things that might have happened in the past be able to dictate your decision making on how you feel or how you may approach a situation. So I feel like that's challenging common thoughts in that sense. But also I look at it like this as well too. Average people do average things. I mean, that's inevitable. You know what I'm saying? But with that, I feel like in order to excel, in order to like elevate yourself, it becomes important. But also, I believe you should be intentional with challenging the common way that people perceive things or do things, in order to grow and better yourself in life, and to reach your ultimate potential. So that's ultimately how I look at challenging common thoughts. That's
All
where
right,
I'm at
cool.
with it.
So from my perspective, which we kind of discussed this a little bit, when I first hear that, right? So challenging common thoughts. The first thing I think about is what are common thoughts to me, right? Like what
Right.
does that mean? And I kind of align that with like really like your foundational knowledge, right?
For sure.
Like
Yeah.
like not necessarily what you've learned in school or things like that, but like just like in your home, your household, like the way you process information, you know what I'm saying? Like just like an example I gave you when we were discussing where in households we all have certain, I don't want to call them rituals, but I'll just use that for lack of a better word, but we have certain processes or things that we do within our home that is normal to us, right? And we think
Mm-hmm.
that it's normal to everybody.
Everybody.
You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
think everybody does those same things, but then as you kind of like grow up, you kind of realize like, oh no, like everybody doesn't do this, like, and so that's kind of like what I think about when I think about like challenging common thoughts, like things that you grew up to believe that you didn't really question or put a lot of thought into, you know what I
Right.
mean? To even to challenge it, and kind of just accepted it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like that's kind of what I think about, or what comes to mind initially when I hear challenging common thoughts. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Man, it's funny you just said that, because the example that you gave me, I just thought about something that, and I know what the example that you gave me was kind of funny, but for me, I remember when I was growing up, and I would go stay at my great grandmother's house, and she would get upset anytime I drank milk out the bowl after I ate cereal, right? And like like I had always did it. Like I'm at my own house. Like my mom didn't care if I drank milk out the bowl, but she wanted me to drink it with a spoon, opposed to like
Oh wow.
putting it up. And like I never like really thought about it. I'm like why I gotta drink it out with a spoon? Why I can't drink it out the
Like it's gonna take me
spoon?
forever. These little scoops.
Yeah,
I could just
I can't get the full effect. You know what I'm
yeah
saying?
right.
But yeah, nah, you know, and like you said, certain things you go through in childhood that you experience uh, inside the home. I believe we're all reflections of our experiences. And, you know, like
Exactly.
you and I had talked about, like we all experience life differently. You know, everybody has their unique experience that they go through, and as a result of that, it's reflected in the way that you receive information, the way that you respond, the way that you process certain things. And so with challenging common thoughts, it really goes back to evaluating all those things and wondering if all of that really has put you in the best possible position now. Like is the position that you're in and where you're progressing, is it favorable, and is it going to lead to a better outcome? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah, no, 100%. So, with that being said, right, with us describing or I guess explaining what comes to top of mind when we think about challenging common thoughts, that's really what this whole episode is about. And to align that with what Cedric just said is, if you happy with where you are in life and where you're headed, you know, the decisions you're making, this may allow you to become even more efficient and
right,
better at what you already are succeeding at. But if you aren't happy with where you are in life, by challenging some of those things and foundational knowledge and the way you process information and things of that nature, this may help you be happy,
right,
and start on the path that you are happy about, and that because the whole point of this Keep It Thorough series is to provide benefit and to be beneficial. You know what I mean? To help those move forward, and to not just get on here and just talk about worthless information, but actually to have
right.
substance
Yeah,
and provide tangible things that you can, walk away from. So with
absolutely.
that being said, let's get into the frequently absent questions,
Questions.
right?
Frequently absent
Not
questions.
the frequently asked questions, but the frequently absent
Absent
questions.
questions. The real FAQs. You
Yeah,
know,
real FAQ.
because a lot of questions are absent. There's a lot of things that haven't been asked and questioned and challenged. And how we kind of assess this is basically, you know, there's no manual to how we build our lives, right? But the tools that we're provided, if they're the wrong tools, our foundation won't be properly supported. Like if we're misinformed with information and we're not gathering the details that are needed that is going to allow us to progress and be better, you know, the foundation that we build on is going to be shaky. You know, and if you think about the structure of a home, it starts from the bottom. You know what I'm saying? And if the foundation isn't right, if the foundation isn't put together well, if there's not a good blueprint that's in place and the right materials aren't poured into that, to that particular space, as you build at home, those studs and the framework, it's not gonna stand like it needs to. You know what I'm saying? And anytime a storm may come, and anytime certain things may come about, you always looking for repairs.
I'm saying
You know what I'm saying?
that's a solid analogy, right? Because it's like to apply that to trying to get to a destination. Like, if the foundation ain't solid, you might not even be able to get the house built.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or get to the destination, right? Or if you do, the slightest thing can cause it all to fall apart.
Fall apart.
Like you may think you make a little success, but you skip some steps, and now you get to a point where it just collapses on itself. You know what I mean? So that was a dope analogy.
And and it's the same thing how we always talk about skipping steps. You know what I'm saying? And I believe strongly, like you have to go through something to get you somewhere. Like there's no possible way to get somewhere without experiencing certain things. But as you go through those experiences, it's important to, you know, look at the information and the details that come along with it and be secure enough to challenge or to question or to ask, opposed to, you know, just allowing life and circumstances to kind of dictate what's what, or what's meant to happen when potentially that's not the reality of it. You know what I'm saying? But and that just goes into to the next talking point about ideas that, you know, that reflect our reality, and how many of our thoughts, you know, that shape our reality have essentially been based on someone else's understanding that we never challenge. Like when we have been brought up in life, a lot of times we never ask questions. We just feel like this, that it is what it is.
Just accept it.
Let's just accept that. You know, but as you get older and you experience life in your own way, whether it be, you know, through associates, whether it be through a certain networking circle, whether it be through a book that you've read, you know, whatever the case may be, now you get to a point where you start to reflect and think, like, is this really my reality? Like, is this really how things are supposed to be for me? Like, is there a better way for me to go about handling this particular situation or addressing certain things that I experience in life? And like I said, like when you're misinformed, or when you're not provided with the right info, it's going to be a challenge to really navigate, and successfully be able to navigate and get to where, you know what I'm saying, get to where you're trying to go. And that's where it really becomes paramount, to have the confidence and have the wherewithal to say, okay, something just ain't right. Like I'm not where I want to be, or I'm not succeeding in the way that I would have liked to succeed.
Yeah, and instead of placing that blame on others, right, or your situation, or, you know, really kind of being a pessimist about the situation, and, you know, looking at all the negatives, to actually kind of self-reflect and, you know, challenge yourself and your thoughts and your
Correct.
processes, you know. So yeah, no, absolutely, I agree with you 1,000%.
Because I'll say this too, and we can go hop into the next thing. But you know, information, it can be used for two things. It can be used to break down or build up. You know what I'm saying? And whatever info that you're provided with, how you interpret it and how you receive it is either going to affect you in a negative way, or it's going to influence you in a positive way. You know what I'm saying? And that's really off of how you, like we say, process, how you interpret, how your ears hear things. And ultimately, the way that we hear things is based off of experiences. You know what I'm saying? Based off of things that we've gone through.
Yeah, experiences and understanding, you know.
Experiences and understanding.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But
all
that's
right,
all I
cool.
had on that one, bro.
No, no, no.
Unless you want
I
to
think
add on to that.
no, no, no. I think that was a good segue. So the next segment in this is chain reaction, right? And chain is an acronym. I'll just break down the acronym real quick. So chain, C is for choices, H is for history, A is for abilities, I is for identity, N is for network. And I'm gonna cover the first three here, and then Said gonna knock off the last two. But so choices. When we talk about the chain reaction, we're really just talking about kind of like um, the objects I just outlined in the chain reaction. We're talking about like do's and don'ts, or was and is, can and can'ts, and just when it pertains to the way you think about things. Like I'll just get into it, and it'll make more sense as we get into it. So choices. Um, ask yourself, have you questioned why you've made certain decisions in your life, right? So, like, what's an example of that? Do you have you questioned, you know, why you work where you work, right? Why you've chosen your particular career path? Like, is that what you want to be doing, right? Or
Right.
is that just kind of where you ended up? Is that what you've accepted? You know
Right.
what I mean? That's like a good example of questioning certain decisions in your life, right? Another really good question is about your choices is, are you happy with the decisions you've made in life, right? And that can just be as simple as, are you happy with where you are? Or have you currently made changes in your life that you're implementing and you're happy with the progress you've seen thus far? Or have you not even asked yourself this question? You know,
Right.
is this something that you haven't even addressed? You know, like, are you just on kind of cruise control and just day by day, which I highly recommend you not be on cruise
Don't
control.
be that. Don't be that. Please.
Do not be on cruise control. You know what I
Let's
mean?
be intentional.
Let's be very intentional. Because if you are not intentional, it is very hard to be successful. Period. So choices, right? Again, have you questioned why you've made certain decisions in your life, and then are you happy with those decisions that you've made in your life? Second, history. Um, do you believe your upbringing affects the choices you've made? So, what would be a good example of that, right? Like, they say we all are like a product of our environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna just be 100% real. If you grow up in the hood, right, and you surrounded with a whole bunch of drug dealers, the chances of you being a drug dealer is extremely high.
Right.
If you grow up in the suburbs and you surrounded with doctors and lawyers, and you know that's who your inner circle is, your chances of being a doctor or a lawyer are extremely high. So, with those examples, let's align that with, do you believe your upbringing affects the choices you've made, right?
Yeah.
So, with what you were surrounded by, with what your upbringing looked like, do you think that has affected the choices that you've made up to this point in your life? It's a very good question to ask yourself, right?
Yeah.
Or have you broken that chain, right?
Right.
Have you went a different direction than what you were surrounded by,
And decided to make a change and do something different.
and do something different, right?
You know,
Um,
I'm gonna touch on
no, go
something real
ahead, go
quick.
ahead.
I don't know if people watch Bel Air, but me and my wife was watching Bel
Oh
Air.
no, I like it. I like the spin on it too. It's
I like
interesting.
it too. So I don't know which episode you were on, but it was the episode where Will's homeboy came down from Philly and was spending time with them in
Yeah. I know what
in
you're talking
Cali,
about.
right? And
That was the episode right before this last episode, I think.
yeah,
Or maybe that was the last episode.
2 episodes before,
Yeah,
one
yeah.
or two, but they got into it basically because Will decided to make different changes in his life, right? Like he understood that there was more to life than Philly.
In the streets of
Like
Philly. Yeah.
the life that he was accustomed to, or the life that he experienced. Once he got into a different environment, he was like, you know what? Like, nah, there's more. Like we're not confined to this just one environment. Like this is where we are, but this is not what we have to be. Like we don't have to stay here. Like there's an opportunity in the world that's so big and so broad if we really just take the time to make changes in our day-to-day life, and like we just said, be intentional with where we're going. Like really assessing our choices, everything that we've decided to do and made decisions to do, and really ask yourself, like, is this really progressing me towards better? Like, is this giving me an opportunity to put myself in the best position that is favorable and going to lead to the best potential outcome? Because if you're not, yeah, history is going to repeat itself. Like
100%.
you're going to continue to make the
1000%.
same decisions and do the same things. And like you and I just said the other day, like when you repeat something, you know, the same, Over how does that go? You said
It's like
repeat.
15. You talking about like 15 days in a row? Yeah.
No. When you repeat something in
Oh,
insanity,
no, the
like
definition of insanity, doing the same thing
yeah,
over
do the
and
same
over and
thing
expecting
and hope
different
for a
results.
different
Yeah.
result.
Yeah.
Not going to happen. Like
Exactly.
you really have to make a decision to change the way that you think and the way that you process information, and not be so confined to history and how things were. That's all I
Exactly.
had on that one, bro. You go ahead. I just
Yeah,
had to throw that in there.
100%. And just to add on that before I get to the additional bullet point on history is too many times in like the Black community, right? In our communities, we start over every generation.
Yeah.
There's no building blocks. We're not handing much over to the generation behind us. They're literally starting all over. You know what I mean? And not learning, or we're not passing that information, or in a lot of instances we don't have anything to pass on.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's very important, not just for you, but for your children
For your children.
and
And
the
for your
future
children's children.
generations, the ones who come after you,
Right.
So the next bullet
Absolutely.
point, so I want to reiterate the first one. Do you believe your upbringing affects the choices you've made? Very great, good question to ask yourself. And then to follow that, has your thoughts changed as you've grown into adulthood? Which I hope that answer is yes. And I want to address a common thing amongst people, right? Like, it's cool for people to be like, I haven't changed. I'll never change. I'm still the same. Like, that's a bunch of BS. I'm going to just keep it 100% honest with you. As you grow as an adult, you need to change. The way you process information, the way you see life, the friends you have, like, you need to cut off people who are not good for you. You need to find others and align yourself with others who think like you. And you need to, you know what I mean? You need to change. That is not a bad thing.
That's not a bad thing.
That is a wonderful thing. You should not be the same person at 33 years old, or at 40 years old, or at 50 years old you were at 21. Like, no, absolutely. That is not how life works. You definitely need to change. Hey, and I agree with you 100%. Myers, if you haven't changed, you a goddamn fool. Not just a fool, you a goddamn fool. You know what I'm saying?
Fool. Like, come on, man.
And yeah, like what Kim said, 54 and still changing. Man, we should be changing
every day,
all the time until we leave this earth. You know what I mean? So yeah, so you definitely should change, and your thoughts should evolve. The way you process information should evolve, and you never should stop learning. Learning never stops. A lot of people think learning stops at high school, and they they on cruise control, or most people, I feel like, they go to college, they in some form or fashion, if they work in their field, they continue to kind of gain knowledge on that particular field or whatever. But not everybody. But knowledge does not stop. You need to continue educating yourself. And me and Cedric, we talk a lot, you know what I mean, about various topics. But if somebody was to come to me and be like, what is the definition of life? What is the purpose of life? I honestly would say that to learn as much as you can. And then Said came behind that and was like, and pass it on. Which, pass it, you know what I mean?
That's it, bro.
That's really, if I was to have to define life, that's what it's about. And you got to just, look at it not just from a personal level, but from like a professional and business level. All the progress we've made as a society in this world is about information and knowledge being passed on. The reason,
and that's a service. It's a service
right
to the next person.
Like, as far as education, the strides we've made in education, technology, health, in the health industry, medicine, you know what I mean? The reason they were able to come up, regardless of how you feel about the vaccine, that's controversial within itself. But the advances we made in medicine is based off of information that is gathered and been passed on. You know what I mean? But yeah, so that's the second bullet point on history. The next one in the chain reaction is abilities. So, and this, I like this one a lot. How do you determine whether you're capable of accomplishing something? When somebody asks you a question, right? Like, say somebody is, you know, an entrepreneur and they want to, I'm gonna just go out there. Say somebody wants to build a mall, right? And they want you to help them. Typically, most people can answer whether they can or can't do something fairly quickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that I think that's really kind of embedded in maybe like your subconscious, even like you kind of have a predetermined thought on what you determine is too much work,
Right.
right? Like what you aren't willing to do, what you don't want to do. And the question and what we want to challenge here is how do you determine whether you can accomplish something or if you're capable of doing something? How do you determine that? Do you just say, okay, I haven't done it before, so I can't do it?
Right.
Or you know, like, or do you actually think about it, you know, read into it, do some research, and then approach it that way and
Right.
try to accomplish it? But
And
how do you go about determining whether you're capable of accomplishing something?
and I think one of the most important things with that is the word that we always reflect on a lot too is desire. Like when you have a desire to progress towards something better and you've identified what that better is, whether it's something personally, professionally, physically, once you have that and you know exactly what it is, as they say, you know your why, or you know your reason, or however you want to, categorize it. Once you have that, it's important to understand that it's going to take work. Like nothing is just going to be simply handed to you. But again, if there is a strong desire, and I'm talking about like strong to the point, like it's unbreakable. You know what I'm saying? If there's a strong desire for it, I feel like you're going to find a way to get it done. And that's how you know if you're capable of actually accomplishing something. Because basically, you're going to look at it like this. I don't care what happens. I don't care what goes on. I don't care what obstacles, and I put air quotes around obstacles because I don't look at obstacles as obstacles. There's opportunities. It's an opportunity to learn, opportunity to experience something, opportunity to grow. But when you look at it as that and you approach it in that manner and you really speak positively into that situation, I feel like you can accomplish that. Because I ultimately think that the way that you speak into a situation or about a situation really can reflect the outcome. Because if
No,
you
100%, which
yeah,
goes to what we talked about when we were, yeah, I like that too. Obstacles equals opportunities. Yeah, that boy said, think and grow rich. You know, and I forget the point. She posted the obstacles and opportunities and threw me. I forgot what I was about
now
to
you
say.
good.
I forgot what I was about to say, bro. You go ahead.
But no, it's just the point of really understanding that the way that you speak into a situation
Oh,
can
yes, sir.
ultimately determine the way that you respond and the way that you act pertaining to that situation. So if
And
you're thinking about something
I remember what I
positively,
was about to say now. So
go
in
ahead,
Think
finish
and
doing
Grow
your thought,
Rich,
bro.
where we talk, it's about your subconscious. Like
Yeah,
what
that
you're
right there.
saying, like feed. You have to feed your whatever you feed your conscious mind gets fed into your subconscious mind. And if you feed yourself a lot of doubt, then you're gonna believe that.
You're
You
gonna
know what I
believe
mean?
it. Exactly.
If you're positive, if you feed yourself a lot of positivity, then you're gonna believe you can do it. It's really as simple as it sounds. It really is that simple. You just have to, and how you think changes your emotions, which yeah, it does. And that's hey, good point, Ken. We're gonna get to that in a minute. Um, but yeah, you just have to constantly feed yourself positivity and operate on the side of optimism.
Yeah.
Like, do not be a pessimist. Don't be that person that finds every reason for why they can't do something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And too
Finding
many
every
people
finding
operate
every excuse.
on that fabric, right? Like quit being like people actually look for the excuse. They look for the out. Don't be the person looking for the out. Like
Yeah.
find the end.
Say
Find
I
the way
want
to
I want I want all the smoke. Give it here.
oh, you
All the
know,
challenges, obstacles,
right?
burdens. Let me get them. Put them on my plate.
And then I want to say this before I hit the second bullet point on abilities. Hard work is easy work when you consistent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Hard work becomes easy work when you consistent, because the more you challenge yourself and the more you do things, it just becomes a habit. It just becomes natural, you know? And then you get used to navigating those obstacles or opportunities, right?
Yeah.
You get used to, and then you can apply. That's where that knowledge that you gain becomes very useful, because then you can apply things that you did in the past to overcome previous opportunities to these new opportunities. You know what I'm saying? And then you can overcome them faster. You know,
Absolutely.
that's where that becomes extremely beneficial. But the second benefit, yeah, exactly. It ain't work no more. Yeah. So second bullet point on abilities. Do you think your thoughts of your abilities have been limited by your upbringing? So
Mm-hmm.
this falls in line kind of with that question about, do you think your upbringing affects the choices you've made? You know what I mean? Kind of like, do you think that your thoughts of your abilities have been limited by your upbringing? So if you grew up around a bunch of drug dealers, right, and you didn't grow up around, like, and I'm actually going to use myself as an example. So I'm a software developer. That's what I do. I'm a software developer for a pretty big company. I'll just leave it at that. I didn't grow up around software developers. That's not
Yeah.
who I grew up around. I grew up around a lot of not very good people, right? So when you grow up in those environments, it's kind of hard to say hilarious. I know why he laughed like that though.
You got it, bro.
Yeah.
You got it.
When you grow up around a bunch of drug dealers or something like that, right? It's kind of hard to see yourself as a lawyer or a doctor or an architect or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to see yourself as being something so much bigger than what you're around, because it's like, okay, none of them have done it, so how can I? You know what I mean? Like, you kind of limit yourself. Like, you put yourself in a box, and then, you know what I mean? And you never should do that. Like, you're capable of whatever you put your mind to, right? So again, ask yourself that question. Do you think your thoughts of your abilities have been limited by your upbringing?
And I think too, it goes back to that conversation we had the other day when I was talking to you about Kanye's mom on that Genius documentary. And I haven't seen it, but I saw someone post about how his mom like always affirmed him and encouraged him and really was just this positive figure in his life, you know, telling him that he can do it and all these, you know, and all these other things. And this just goes back to what I was just saying not too long ago about the way, not only how you speak into a situation, but how people around you as you're being brought up speak about you and speak into, you know, your abilities and what they see you being able to do, because that has a long lasting effect on you. You know what I'm saying? As life progresses
on that mental,
on the mental. You know what I'm saying? So it's important that you understand, you know, as the Bible says, life and death is in the power of the tongue. You know what I'm saying? And the way that you say certain things to somebody, you never know the effect that it can have on that individual in that moment, or even long term when they're faced with challenges or when they're experiencing something in life and they reflect on what was told to them, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And it's like they back in that same situation and they can't get through it because of what somebody else said, how they was informed years ago. And that just goes back to the beginning. Misinformation. Like, no, you're not a failure. You know, you're not a bad person. You're not the reflection of your father. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not none of these things. You know, so when people say that as you grow up and you think it. You know,
you start to believe it.
You start to believe it. Well, maybe they are right. Maybe I ain't gonna grow up and be anything. Or maybe this is impossible. You know what I'm saying? And so that really
Man, I was told by a police officer, bro, when I was maybe a junior in high school. Minneapolis police officer, same police department that killed George Floyd, right? I was told by a school police officer that I had a north side attitude and I would never amount to shit.
Yeah.
Literally. Now let's just break that down for a second, right? What if that was said to somebody who was already struggling or already had low confidence or low self-esteem, right?
Right.
And how damaging that could be to a kid. You know
Correct.
what I'm saying? To believe
Absolutely.
that and then to go out and operate on that thought process, right? Like, okay, well, I'm not gonna be nothing anyway, so shit, I might as well go do what the homies doing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, why apply myself? You know what I mean? Is it even worth it? You know? Um, but yeah, and I agree with everything you just said, man. But that was my second bullet point on ability. So if you wanna
Yeah.
go
So
to an identity.
identity. How much value do you place in personal perception? You know, the way that you perceive yourself. And I'll say this. I look at every individual as a brand, right? We all have our own brand identity that's built on our experiences, you know, things that we went through in our lives, you know, all those things characterize our brand and make our brand whatever it is. And with that understanding, you know, it comes to a point where you ask yourself, right, how much value do you place in your personal perception? Like the way that you perceive yourself, but also the way that you want others to perceive you as well. And it can't be from the standpoint of, you know, yes, you are who you are. You know what I'm saying? And being your best self and the best reflection of yourself, that's the most important thing, right? But even in that aspect, like we were saying earlier, being able to change, like being comfortable with the process of evolving, being comfortable with the process of becoming more and not being stagnant and not being content and comfortable with where you are, but really looking at yourself as someone that's forever evolving, someone that's forever flourishing, someone that's forever looking to be the best version of themselves, not just today, but every day. Like waking up with the intentions to be better than what you were the day before. You know what I'm saying? And that's what really adds the value to your personal perception. Like that's what really adds value to who you are as a person. You know, your character and how you carry yourself, but also how others perceive you. And me personally, I feel that's important. Like I was telling my wife a while back, and we were just talking about business and whatnot. But I've always been the type of person, like if I have a business and I have somebody that's working for me, or working with me rather, I like to say working for me, but working with me, and they leave and they do something else and they badmouth my situation, I'm gonna take it personal. Like I want to know, like, okay, like why do you feel this way? Or what happened or what experience did you have that just didn't sit right with you? Right? Or even if there's an engagement that you may have with somebody in a conversation and you know that, you know, this person may have felt a way, it's okay to ask questions like, you know, what made you feel this way? Like, why do
Yeah,
you feel that?
try to get to an understanding. Try to get
Try
to
to
the
get to
bottom
an
of it.
understanding. Right. And you know, and being able to be confident with who you are, but also being confident with asking questions and taking in information. Right. Um, and then the next bullet point was on that was,
I
go
want to
ahead,
just
bro.
add something to that, said. And so there's two ways to look at that question, right? So how much value do you place in personal perception? So I tell people this all the time. I always say I don't really care what others think about me because I set the bar so high for myself that another person's expectation will never meet my own, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I say that not to discredit, you know, others' perception of me. You know what I mean? Uh, but to just, I hold myself to such a high standard that no one else can top that. You know what
Right.
I mean? And
Yeah.
that's really the, you know, and like I said, there's two ways to look at it. Like, you can either have that viewpoint where you hold yourself to such a high standard, you know what I mean? Or you can have the viewpoint of, okay, let me touch base and kind of see where I'm at. Like what Said was saying, like, okay, somebody badmouth, you know, I worked with somebody badmouthed me. Let me touch base with them and see what the issue was. Which
Right.
in my situation, I probably would do the same thing, even though my thought process is slightly different. Because I still would want to get to the bottom of it, because word of
Right.
mouth is very imperative to success of a business. But yeah, so I always say that. I just wanted to throw that out there. I
No, for
set the
sure.
bar high for myself, right?
And that's important too.
And I know you do the same, because we talked about this point before.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But cool. I'll let
Yeah.
you do the second.
No, good. And then the next one was, do you view life as a cap on learning, or do you see endless opportunities of growth? Like, do you feel, and this goes back to what we were saying earlier, really, like, do you feel like at certain points of life, there's just a cap? Like, who I am is who I am. This is where I'm at. There's no opportunity for me to keep growing, right? Or do you see life as a world of endless opportunities? There's always something to learn. There's always something to progress towards. There's always something to pursue, right? And approaching it with that aspect allows you to continue to navigate. And I feel like ultimately, man, that gives you the thrill of living. Like, living is learning, and really learning often, and learning consistently. Because I look at it like this too. Like, every day changes. Like, no one day is the same. Like, today was obviously different from yesterday, you know, when you're looking at it from a time perspective. So time is constantly and continuously changing, right? And with time changing, it's important as people and as individuals, we do the same. Like, we change as the time goes. Like, not getting stagnant and trying to live in the past, or, you know, just stay in one moment, but really continuously to invest in learning and becoming more today than what you were yesterday, and being more tomorrow than what you were today. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
absolutely.
And then the last one for Chain was network. And the first bullet point on that was, do you believe that certain accomplishments are only for certain groups? Like, do you feel that there's only groups of people that can attain a certain level of success? Like, do you feel like success is not attainable in certain magnitudes or in certain ways based off of whatever group that you're associated with, or whatever upbringing that you had, and the people that you grew up around, or
Yeah,
the
your
people
your
that you
social
hang
circles, or
around?
yeah,
Because
absolutely.
that's important. You know, your social groups, you know, who you hang around, the people that what they say, show me your 5 friends, I can show you your future, however that saying goes.
Yeah,
But understanding, like, the people that you are that are part of your networking circle really can influence the way that you respond and the way that you react in certain situations, right? And being able to get around people who are forever looking to evolve and better themselves can be extremely beneficial to you as you progress and as you grow. And then the last one is, are you willing to change your views to align with other social classes, right? And Eric, like we talked about yesterday, with working in sales, we're always working with different types of people. And something I thought about earlier today too with that particular one was, you know, you're not going to go to a formal event in hooping attire, right? Like, you're going to dress to par, right? And it's not a matter of
and
changing who you are.
that's a great example, bro, because people aren't gonna look at that as you changing or you being different. They're gonna
Right,
look like, no, that's what you're supposed to do in that situation.
right.
So that's a great example.
And it's situational. You know what I'm saying? And it's not about being somebody else, like being fake or being fraud. Like you said, like, you're supposed to adapt in certain situations, depending on who you're around and who you're having a conversation with. Like, that's the highlight of networking. You know what I'm saying? Like, being able to move and rub shoulders with people from all sorts of different social classes, you know, and not limiting yourself to one group, or being afraid to branch off and be around other people who may be from, you know, whatever class or whatever group, or experience this, that, and the other. Like, no, like be open to different ideas and different perceptions, and different value systems, and be encouraged through that process. You know what I'm saying? And not look at it as a downside, or a way of you selling out, but really just ultimately growing up and leveling up. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
and you
Because that,
still can be your authentic self. You know what I mean? You still can be who you are, and still change your views to align. Because like you remember when we talked about this, and I told you like this question is a deep one, right?
yeah,
Because like on surface level, are you willing to change your views to align with other social classes? That sounds bad, right? Like, wow, like why do I need to change, right? To fit in with them. And it's like, well, if your views are incorrect, if the knowledge you have and the way you're going about it is incorrect, why shouldn't you change?
right,
So that you can align with those who are more successful. You know what I mean? That's not
exactly,
a negative. And it's not one way either, you know? Like it goes both ways. There's certain adjustments that super successful people need to make in order to be more successful, to align with additional groups. You know what I
right,
mean? Like, so it goes both ways. It's not just, you know, minorities trying to adapt to work with white people, you know what I mean? Or whatever, you know, way you want to paint that picture. It's just about really challenging your thoughts, your common thoughts, the way you operate, you know, the foundation of on which you operate, and you know, making sure that you're correct, or you're operating efficiently. And if not, then making the necessary adjustments and changes, and not being stubborn. And you said something earlier, said that I think is very important. A lot of people just make comments like, well, I am who I am. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
no, like, don't be who you are then. You know what I mean? Like, make adjustments. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
grow. You know what I'm
Change
saying?
where it's needed.
Yeah, you know, like, and like you said, it doesn't make you fake. It doesn't make you, you know what I mean? Man, there's 50 words out there you can probably use that people use when they classify this, but you
Yeah,
can still be your true authentic self, and grow and change, you know what I mean, to be successful.
absolutely. So let me ask you this, bro.
What's up?
I know
And
on
we got 4 minutes
that's what I was
before
gonna say.
Instagram.
That's right.
'Cause
Before they cut our water short.
yeah.
Uh, so we can I guess you would say speed through the last one.
Yeah. No, go ahead and introduce them, and we can just, you know what I mean, just really run through them real quick.
Yeah. So last one on here is just changing the dresses, and as we've discussed pretty much everything as far as challenging common thoughts. Really, change, yes, was an acronym, but obviously with each one of those things, it's a chain reaction. One thing leads to another. They all connect in some kind of way. And obviously, whenever you're experiencing something and going through something, the next phase of that is really, how do you get past that? Like, how do you transition from one place to the other? And that's really changing addresses, right? It's changing the way that you address certain things, but also mentally changing the way that you address certain things, right? From a physical standpoint, but also from a mental standpoint as well, too. Like the space in your mind that causes you to think about something in a certain way, you really have to focus on changing that. Like how you perceive something, or how you interpret information, or what you feel is false, or what you feel is facts. Like you really want to start challenging those common thoughts.
And
You know what I'm
let's
saying?
and to touch on the, because this was super important. I wish we had a little bit more time to go into this. So we might need to do another episode on just this, because I want to wrap up at 8:29 so we don't get cut. But receiving and responding to information, right? And then your emotional intelligence. Like, what does your emotional intelligence mean to you? Or what does emotional intelligence mean to you? And do you find it challenging to remove your emotions when making decisions? You
Right.
can't put emotions in making, critical decisions together, because you don't operate at your peak efficiency when your emotions are involved. When you're
Correct.
mad, when you're upset, when you're sad, and you're making critical decisions, it doesn't work. Yeah, we gonna get cut. Said I'm just wrap this, y'all. Hey, we appreciate y'all for tuning in. Episode 13. Be sure to check out the kit in the bio. And as always, if you don't do nothing else, keep it thorough. And I think we probably should do an episode on literally just emotional intelligence.
I'm with it, bro.
Yeah. But all right, y'all. We'll holler at y'all next time, man.
Emotional
it was
boundaries.
a
I
pleasure.
like that. You got to have those boundaries.
Yeah, exactly. All right,
All right,
y'all have a
till
good
next
one.
time.